Hello everyone, xForts here, and welcome to Chainsaw Man Chapter 102 Review and Discussion, coming back from our 1 week break, which turned out to be exactly what Fujimoto needed for this absolute juicer of a chapter, coming in at a solid 48 pages, and with, of course, the return of Denji. You've seen the thumbnail, and you should all have already read the chapter, so yes, ladies and gentlemen, Denji is back in Chainsaw Man Part 2, although I don't know for how long, so let's just enjoy Denji while he's here. And I kinda called it at the end of my last chapter review, and I said that Denji could be the one to save the girls from the Bat Devil, and this would sort of recreate that arc from Part 1, but now show how much more powerful Denji is, and how much he's grown. And that kind of happens, although it's done in a way I never would have expected. That's way cooler than anything I would have thought that happened, but it is a big spectacle when Denji is brought back in. But we'll get into this whole Denji return discussion in the later half of the chapter when he shows up. So very exciting material this week that contains so much in just one chapter. We have more Asa development, devil fights, it's a funny chapter, Chainsaw Man's back, and we can even see Power's lasting influence on Denji and a little bit of how he's grown since Part 1. So really exciting week for Chainsaw Man fans, and this is just the first example of how much better the series is going to be now that it's not strictly tied to a weekly schedule. So now that Fujimoto can take 1 week or 2 weeks off and make these really sick chapters that are like 40 to 50 to 60 pages that tell like a larger complete story within one chapter, and just do more with these chapters, pace them differently, tell stories in different ways. So really love the schedule we're on right now, and we're on another break as well. So Chainsaw Man will be back on like August 30th, something like that, 2 weeks from now. And I have to mention it before we get into the chapter review. Last thing, the Chainsaw Man anime trailer dropped. It looked awesome. A bunch of people asked me my thoughts on it. Yeah, it looks great. Mappa's doing a really sick job with it. It looks like an anime movie, for Christ's sakes. We saw like all the voice actors and everything. So I love the trailer. Really excited for the anime. And Ifedos as the voice of Power is just like the most perfect thing ever. So those are my thoughts on the anime trailer so far. It looks awesome. But bringing things back to 102, so let's just get right into it. Bringing things to the start of the chapter, which is titled Save the Cat, and we pick up right where we left off at 101, which is Yuko and Asa running away from the Bat Devil. As the two are thrown around, things go from bad to worse, as Yuko's leg is impaled by some sharp metal, crippling her, and Yoru uses this as an opportunity to save herself, again asking Asa to turn Yuko into a weapon, saying she'll die here anyways if she can't run, so might as well save themselves. So it seems that even without Yoru in control of the body, Asa can still use the War Devil's powers, although we haven't seen that happen yet, but we now know it's possible, because War Devil is very literal with their words, and Yoru is literally asking Asa to do this for her. So we know it's possible, but we haven't seen it yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to the day that Asa actually is able to use these powers, and maybe uses the War Devil's powers against her, or uses the powers for good in some way. But because Yoru is powerless right now, and unable to take control of the body because of Asa's fear, she further tries to manipulate Asa into killing Yuko, using her own thoughts against her, saying that Asa isn't genuinely sorry for killing Bucky, only sorry that people saw her do it, so she shouldn't have a problem killing Yuko if there's no witnesses. But it seems Yoru is misinterpreting Asa's thoughts, as I don't think she's lying here because she is inside Asa's head. It's just that Asa shouldn't feel sorry for killing Bucky because it wasn't her fault. She was tripped on purpose, so it would make sense for her only regret to be that the classmates saw it. So because what Yoru claims to be Asa's true nature isn't true, she of course doesn't kill Yuko, instead decides to save her no matter how hopeless of an attempt it may be. Although unfortunately Asa quickly trips and falls, saying she always stumbles at the most crucial moments, and then shows us various moments from Asa's past where she had fumbled the bag, but most importantly was the death of her mother, which apparently happened during a typhoon, as in the background we can see the Typhoon Devil from Part 1, although with a slightly different appearance, looking elderly more so than it was in Part 1, as in Part 1 it was a baby. This could be because the devil was killed and reborn at some point and its appearance changed, or it could be that the design changes along with the life cycle of the typhoon, starting as a baby and then aging throughout the duration of its storm, which could be a cool detail for this devil. But anyway, that is enough Typhoon Devil discussion. But it's during this scene that we see Asa trying to save a cat during the storm, call back to the chapter title, which is a good-hearted act that inadvertently results in her mother's death, which is a reoccurring theme in Asa's life, and this helps us understand her more in the beginning of Part 2, as it seems whenever Asa tries to do the right thing, something terrible happens, so she eventually just stopped trying, starting with the death of her mother, which led to the cold and shut-in person we met in the first few chapters that was going against her true nature, because every time she tried to do what felt right, it always resulted in bad things happening, so she just like completely tried to change. And when she eventually does open up and embraces her classmates, it results in the Bucky incident. So although it seems Asa is cursed in this way, she still decides she wants to live with her heart in the right place, even if it turns out to be a mistake, realizing that the terrible events from her past weren't because of her, and that she only ever was trying to do the right thing. insane, and moving forward, she will continue to live that way, but with acceptance of whatever may come of being true to her heart, as she hopelessly carries Yuko only to be eaten by the Bat Devil. So very briefly before we continue, just wow, the amount of development and expansion given to Asa's character through just the first few pages of this chapter, all set to a backdrop of constant action and devil fights, is just super impressive. The way that we see Asa growing as a person and continuing to learn from these past experiences, and how we saw the trauma that happened in her past and how that is being reshaped and recontextualized because of this friend she's now made in current day with Yuko, and how Yuko's positive mindset is allowing her to heal from what happened in the past and continue to grow as a person. And it's like, God, the Asa development just doesn't stop, man. I love this protagonist so much and how much Fujimoto is putting into her character. Denji's cool and this whole chapter is devil fights and awesome, but I don't want that to overshadow like how important the beginning part of this chapter is. Just like super sick. And I'm kind of praising this a lot because what I expected going into this chapter was just a devil fight. Where we left off, it's like, oh, the Bat Devil attacks. How are we going to defeat the Bat Devil? And it's like we're thrown into like Asa development with the Bat Devil fight happening, and it all coalesced super well. So really cool to see Fujimoto use this situation to make Asa a very admirable character, like even more so in continuing to grow through adversity. But speaking of devil fights, that brings us to the second half of the chapter, as of course Asa is not going to die to the Bat Devil. No way. As here to save her is none other than the hero of hell himself, Chainsaw Man, in his first official in real life appearance in part 2, who is currently dealing with a much larger devil and just so happens to crush the Bat Devil, causing it to spit out the girls. And this marks the first time in part 2 that the narrative separates from Asa, as where we're not seen through her perspective or focused on her character, as we now switch to Denji. For the remaining 19 pages of this chapter, which just fly by, being a pure devil fight of blood, guts, chainsaws, and cute cats, but primarily focused on the imagery that we've known to grow in love of Chainsaw Man, really making a spectacle out of Denji's return, which is a perfect way to bring him back into the story and exactly what readers wanted. As we are blessed by Fujimoto with multiple double-page spreads of highly detailed action sequences and large-scale destruction, looking like something straight out of an Avengers flick, to add to the narrative of Chainsaw Man being this superhero-esque identity. The devil he's fighting with even entertains this idea of a superhero devil, recreating a common trope of such films where a character's morality is tested or the villain makes the hero realize you can't save them all, making Denji choose between a kid with a bright future or a car full of geezers and grannies. Kind of the Chainsaw Man version of the trolley dilemma, or you know, that scene in Spider-Man. Although it seems these devils have developed a false reality of who Chainsaw Man really is, as the media coverage and commercialization of Chainsaw Man make him out to be a hero of humanity. Although when we see Denji now, he's still Denji, a devil hunter who has never particularly cared about the lives of civilians, only killing devils. As Denji multi-track drifts this metaphorical trolley, letting everyone die and cuts right through the devil's face, choosing to only save the cat that was hanging from the building behind the devil, embracing it in his arms. And concluding the chapter, we see even more manipulated media coverage and kind of confirming that it's being manipulated, as the news broadcaster says, in yet another act of heroism, Chainsaw Man saved a cat from the cockroach devil, omitting all of the destruction and death left in Denji's wake, and confirming that this was the cockroach devil, which was pretty huge. So getting into the post-chapter discussion, lots to talk about. So the first thing we got to mention is the continued paralleling between Asa and Denji through the chapter title, Save the Cat, as they both saved a cat in this chapter, which is just a small detail, but may have some larger implications for them having like a shared nature, and them just like working well together in a way. I'm just so excited to see what is going to happen when the two human forms of these characters meet, Asa and Denji, because like all throughout the beginning of part 2 is seeing how similar their upbringings were and how they've gone through similar experiences and felt similar feelings. So I just feel like those two have the potential to be best friends, but of course the devils inside them are like mortal enemies. I mean, Chainsaw Man, Pochita's indifferent, but War Devil, of course, just wants to go after Chainsaw Man. So like that continuing to build is really interesting, and they both save cats. That's awesome. Denji got the Siamese with the booties. It was super cute. But I mainly want to talk about Denji's return, of course, and the way he was utilized in this chapter, and how Fujimoto went about bringing him back into the story. So I mentioned in the last chapter review how with the Bat Devil being brought back, that was like a big flare that was like Denji is probably going to be coming back soon, and and there's probably something playing with that because of how important it was in part 1 for Denji's character, and he's so associated with Denji as well. So I wondered if we would see that arc recreated in some way and have him fight the Bat Devil, or just show how much he's grown from part 1. But the way it's done is that the Bat Devil is killed indirectly by Denji fighting another devil that's 5 times the size of the Bat Devil, almost like the Bat Devil is an ant that's just crushed in the wake of Denji doing other devil hunting activities. And I thought that was super awesome. And then we continue to go on these, 17 action pages of just Denji showcasing how powerful he is and how he's just like making a mockery of this cockroach devil, because like it really didn't put up much of a fight at all. Yeah, it destroyed some buildings and got in the way. Denji doesn't really care about that at all. So Denji was kind of just playing with it and then eventually ripped through its face in just one attack. So it's like the spectacle of this chapter was so huge, and in a way it really was a full recreation of the Bat Devil arc, just like times 10 scale. The way that the Bat Devil played out is that there was like a lot of city destruction. It took place like in the city. It was toying with Denji. It was mocking him a little bit. You had that scene where the Bat Devil threw a car, or no, Denji threw a car at the Bat Devil with a civilian inside, being like, I don't give a shit about people's lives. And it's like, hell yeah, man, Denji's like still the same in that way. So you have that fight against the big devil. He kills it eventually, and then once the devil like explodes, what happens? In part 1, he rescues Power because the Bat Devil had eaten Power, and he embraces Power in his arms. And now in this fight, Denji kills this devil to save a cat that's in the background, and Power, literally has the horns associated with cats. In part 1, she really loved cats. The whole reason they fought the Bat Devil was to get the cat back. So now that Denji kills this devil, and it ends with him embracing a kitty cat, and also that Denji said that you forgot about, like, there was also a cat, showing that Denji shows that this cat's life has just as much meaning as the people that he could have saved as well, which is another characteristic of Power, a little bit of that influence that she left on him. And maybe like now that Denji doesn't have Power and all these friends that he liked, maybe they're having like this huge impact on him. But specifically Power was like very, very important for his return right here. So very interesting to see that Fujimoto went specifically with her character to be like that one lasting impact that had on Denji. Although I'm sure if we see more through his perspective or see more of his character, we might see some Aki elements, or maybe even some of the things that he learned through Makima. So now that Denji is officially back in part 2, and we end this chapter with him saying his first sentence, like his first spoken words in the part, I really wonder where we're going to pick up in the next chapter. It's going to be a 2-week break, so it's going to be another fat one. So I wonder if it's going to be the same day, and maybe we cut back to Asa's perspective, because I mentioned earlier that like we've never not seen Asa. We've never been away from her. So like this is the first time we've seen Asa doing things. So maybe she left the city, maybe she ran away. So who knows what her and Yuko are doing after they were freed from the Bat Devil. So we could potentially cut straight back to her perspective, and then this was just like a teaser. This was just like Fujimoto being like, yeah, there's Denji, he's back. Now we're going back to Asa for maybe another 5 chapters or something, and then we get more in Denji that way. Or it could be more of like a more, I don't know, TV show plotline, I guess, where we spend a few chapters with Asa, then a few chapters with Denji, back and forth, and we navigate those 2 plot lines as they interweave and connect with each other. So that's a possibility as well. Goddamn, this chapter was just really killer. 48 pages of just pure Fujimoto peak. Awesome. The Shonen Jump Plus is working wonders for Fujimoto. I'm sure you guys noticed like how detailed the fight is in this chapter against the cockroach devil, like the backgrounds and the art and the blood, and Denji looks bigger too. He's buffer. So I wonder, and also I keep saying the name Denji, but we haven't seen him in his human form yet, what his new design is going to be. I wonder if it's going to be the same one Fujimoto drew like 2 years ago with his school uniform. So God, I'm just full on Denji speculation right now. I could go on for probably another half hour. But as for now, guys, I think we're gonna have to call it there, because we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's all very exciting. So let me know what you guys thought about this chapter. Let me know where you think we're gonna be going in the future. And yeah, Denji just really coming out, being a badass, and just like really the perfect return for Denji. I'm so glad it wasn't just a one-off thing where he shows up at the end of a chapter and it's a cliffhanger. I love how half of this chapter was dedicated to Denji performing a recreation of one of his first fights from part 1, and again having that influence of Power and that recreation of that moment where he's like cuddling her and he's holding her and showing that he cares about her, and now that he has gained some of her ideals as well and the respect for animals. And it's just good. It's just peak fiction, guys, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. Fujimoto is just like, God, slowly becoming one of my favorite mangaka of all time, and it's just, I'm really hyped up about this chapter. So, yeah, let me know what you guys thought. Thank you all so much for watching. That is Chainsaw Man Chapter 102 review. Like the video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for more Chainsaw Man. All right, peace, guys. I'm out.